in my life thought, oh wow, you look like a Jew. Are you a Jew? Ah, you sound like a Jew. You know, are you a Jew? I've rarely done that. And I've been really well aware that my new look for the season looks like Lou Reed, and I never even thought about the fact Lou Reed's a Jew. That my new music sounds a lot like the Ramones, and I never thought about the fact they're all Jews. And I just like what I like, and I do what I do, and I work with what I have to work with. And I can't help it that I got this amazing wavy Jew hair that you shiksas are all jealous of. But I'm getting hate. I'm getting Jew hate. And I can tell you, I can count on one hand how many times prior to now that's ever happened in my life. I was a kid, and I had a neighbor named Tim, and he and I were best friends for a day or two. And then when I went over to play with him, his mom said I couldn't come over and play anymore because they were Catholics. And I'm a Jew, and we killed Christ. But it's a singular experience. I grew up in rich San Fernando Valley. Most of us were Jews. Most of my friends in school were Jewish, and the ones that weren't came from poor homes. They were from single-parent families. They were the druggies and the stoners and the delinquents, and I grew up where I grew up. I grew up with what I had to work with, and this is not the time or place to defend the fact that at least I could afford to have a miserable childhood, and so but when this stuff started pouring in, and people would write things like, I went to your website, and are you a Jew? I mean, all of a sudden it was a lot of Jew came up, just kind of came up all over the place, and I was like, I noticed over the course of the last 6 years of being out here that people would say, I'm a Jew, are you okay with that? Kind of things and sentences. I was like, I've never really heard a Jew talk like that. Never once heard a Jew say, are you okay with me being a Jew? I mean, let's be fair. The issue that people have with the Jews is our cavalier, we own everything attitude. Because we can afford to own everything attitude. That's the issue people have with the Jews. So it's rare to find a Jew that's apologetic about being superior in other people's eyes. Because when you look at someone and say, they have things I don't have, you are by yourself saying they're superior to me. I didn't say it. But people say it all the time. I have the power to kill Christ, and that dumb Catholic didn't. I'm superior. I mean, even as a kid, I got that. I was like, we killed Christ? Gosh, I thought the Romans killed Christ. I'm confused. And I was a kid, and I knew that. But I want to address what it means to be a Jew in Christianity, because first and foremost, I want to say this, that we are going to see such a rise in anti-Semitism in the next decade that we will see movements, we will see politics around this. This country will get into wars over whether or not it should support Israel anymore. And we will see the nation get torn apart around the issue of Judaism. I've had people fling words at me that I've never had said to me in my life. I don't mean just bad words. I mean, someone called me a Zionist. I've never used that word in a sentence till just now. It's the first time in my life I've ever said the word out loud. And the ginger Jew, by the way, is because I'm fair-skinned, and they think I'm a redhead who dyes my hair dark brown because I have freckles and stuff. Because a ginger Jew is a redhead Jew. Now, I am a Sephardic Jew by descent. We are dark-haired, and everyone in my family has dark olive skin except me, because I had a redheaded great grandma, who I take after. But My nose used to be bigger and had a big bump in it till Dr. Tiersten, also a Jew, fixed it. And because he was a Jew, he fixed it better than anyone else would have. And but I think we need to also understand that in Christianity, there is a movement that says the Jewish Christians are the master race. That there are the Gentiles, and there are the Jews, and then there's the Jewish Christians. That we are the last prophets. We are the last miracle workers. We are the last evangelists. We are the most anointed and powerful people on the planet today. There are books written about this. Now, I can't care with anything I say tonight being taken out of context. I can't. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I'm scared of my own shadow, and I do some things well, and I struggle with others, and you know what I'm saying? I kind of have to let go of that. Jewish Christianity exists, and we can't change that reality. We can't change the reality that the Jews were God's chosen people, meaning He chose my ancestors to reveal Himself to. Now, if we all go back to Adam and Eve, and we all go back to the 12 tribes of Israel, aren't we all the same? Well, we're not. Because the choice happened after the earth had separated already because of sin. So it is the 12 tribes. I'm a descendant of the 12 tribes through my mother. I can't help that. I was raised in a nominal Jewish home, and I learned Jewish stuff. I learned how to read and speak Hebrew. I learned all the Bible stories. I went to temple. I know how to dance a minhora. And I actually like gefilte fish. And corned beef, sliced paper thin. And I could bitch up a storm at a deli like you wouldn't believe. And I like Fran Drescher's voice. And I totally agree with any Jew that says things like Jews don't camp. I get it. See, you just say Jews don't camp, and you've explained my entire personality. My entire person. There's nothing else to say. You either get that or you don't. Jews don't camp. You take me camping, it's called staying in a hotel. You know, that's the truth. And that attitude reeks of privilege. Because Jews don't camp because they can afford to stay in a hotel. That's how it sounds to people. No, it means we're scared shitless of anything that moves. We don't know how to do anything for ourselves. All we know is how to bark up a big storm so people think we're superior and do stuff for us because it's easier to shut us up than to actually confront us. Try that on a Jew. Sorry. Sorry, guys. I jumped camps when I accepted Christ. But I had a friend when I became a Christian who said, I don't understand. Why don't you become a super Jew instead? Because she's Jewish. And I said, well, I did. I actually read the Old Testament. I actually study the Old Testament. I'm actually an expert in the Old Testament, whatever that means. But it's because of my heritage that it speaks to me, that it spoke to me immediately as a Christian. In fact, the Old Testament spoke to me more than the New Testament. Because I already had foundation in it. I had already seen 10 Commandments 300 times. You know, but it was already part of me. And all those years at temple, all those stories, you know what I mean? It was part of me. And, you know, it was part of my history to know people that were in the camps, you know, in Auschwitz. And so the threat of death and persecution and suffering for being Jewish was very evident to me. So the threat of death and persecution and suffering as a Christian made perfect sense. Jesus' predicament made perfect sense to me. I understood what it meant for him as a kid to walk into the temple and tell people what was up. I understood what it meant for him to sit down and not wash his hands. I knew what it meant for him to yell at the Pharisees. I knew all those people. It all made sense. It was all part of me. And if that's not an advantage to Christianity, I don't know what is, because it was such an advantage to ministry, to being trained for ministry, because I came in knowing so much just from being. I mean, really, how much time did I really spend at temple? We barely went. We barely went. But it's in us. It's in our culture. It's in our veins. It's in our blood. It's my history. It's my heritage, and I can't change that. And you know, the organization Jews for Jesus came after me the minute I was a Christian. How they found out about me, I don't know. But I think it was within a month they were calling me, trying to get me to join their organization. And I said, no, you guys are weird. And people ask me all the time, oh, so you're a Jew for Jesus? And I go, no, I'm a Jew who is for Jesus, but I'm not part of that group. But I am a Jewish believer. I'm a Messianic Jew. I can't help it. I am what I am, you know, and that's what I am. And I have not built my ministry on that. I've not made any claim for that. I've never walked around and said I'm better than everybody. I do know more Old Testament and the effects of the Old Testament on our day-to-day life and the effect of Old Testament compared to New Testament than most Christians I meet. But I had an advantage. You know, it's kind of like being bilingual. I couldn't help that. That was my life. That's what I know. And so everything in the Bible is alive to me. Every speck of it. Because it's the Old Testament that was the preservation of my people to get to the point of the coming of the Messiah. That's all. That's all. That was it. You know? I mean, I think people would dig the Old Testament more if they had a chapter on the Hitler years, you know? But to me, we already did that with Pharaoh. That the plagues all mean something. Every little bit means something. And I think that passion and that exuberance and that confidence that I have in that reality clobbers people between the eyes. And they're like, great, I've been a Christian my whole life and I've never once even given this a second thought. And this upstart with a potty mouth and a total arrogant, cavalier attitude shows up and acts like, duh, did you not notice this? That I come off as an arrogant beast. Nope, I come off as a Jew. And let's just go there. We've got to go there because this is an incredible reality. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Do you know there's a huge group of Jews out here? Oh no, they're not in Phoenix. They're in Scottsdale. Otherwise known out here as what? Snotsdale or Snobsdale. Gosh, the have-nots look at the haves, and I use both those terms ridiculously loosely, and see the people who live in Scottsdale as rich and getting tons of plastic surgery and wintering in Florida, and you know what I'm saying? You know, Miami Beach, because that's what the Jews do. That's what the Jews do. A lot of us rich LA Jews move to Snobsdale to retire. You know, it's like the other Palm Springs. I've heard people talk like this. I said, are you kidding? Have you seen the mall? Please go to Palm Springs if you want to see a Jewish mall. Now, my gosh, God would be turning over in his grave if he weren't alive and well. So, you know, seriously. So, I mean, I can count on one hand how many times I've been to Scottsdale. I can count on one hand how many times I've been to a deli out here. I mean, seriously, I don't even think about this stuff. But that's really bad, isn't it? It's like having a huge wart on your forehead and wondering why people look at you funny. Well, I never think about it. Well, you might want to start. So, the phone calls, the conversations turn, the emails come, the posts on Facebook I have to remove. All of a sudden, I I look more Semitic.